For 85 proud years, virtually every outstanding thoroughbred in North America has come to Belmont Park to take a run at history. More champions have performed at Belmont than at any other site in the world of sports. Reminders of these champions from the past are constantly visible along the tree-lined backstretch roads. From the great man of war to Triple Crown winner Count Fleet. From War Admiral, man of war's most famous son, to Whirlaway, the 1941 Triple Crown winner. The stables and shed rows of Belmont Park have housed legends. And it was here in 1972 that the immortal Secretariat took his first steps towards greatness. The story of this racetrack also includes many of the most prominent families in our nation's history. Turn-of-the-century sportsmen such as August Belmont II, Harry Payne Whitney, and in later years, Alfred Gwynne Vanderbilt, all played significant roles in making Belmont Park the apex of American racing. Racing fans have witnessed many of the sport's greatest and most memorable races here. The tradition continued in the fall of 1990, when racing's newest champions were crowned in the Breeders' Cup at Belmont Park. The Breeders' Cup Championship, symbolized by its coveted trophy, is the most important event in all of racing. The day is comprised of 7 races worth $10 million. The centerpiece is the $3 million Breeders' Cup Classic, the world's richest race. Since thoroughbred racing began on this continent, Belmont Park has been its most prominent and elegant stage. The jewel of its 430 acres is the nation's biggest racetrack, a vibrant monument to American racing. Pat Lynch, who covered the sport for the old New York Journal-American, has seen 50 years of racing at Belmont.
It's a 1.5 mile racetrack, the biggest racetrack in America. In addition to that, there are very few places for a horse to hide. He's barefaced out there on this huge 1.5 mile surface, and racing luck doesn't play the incidence of importance that it does at most other racetracks.
There's no doubt that this is the testing ground of champions. It has the best facilities. There are no excuses here. This is the best place to prove yourself.
The feelings of trainer John Veach were borne out by the champions who had come to challenge at this Breeders' Cup. They included Saumarez, the hero of the Arc de Triomphe, Europe's most important race. Go and Go, who 5 months earlier had come from Ireland to win this track's most traditional prize, the Belmont Stakes, and Unbridled, the 1990 Kentucky Derby champion. While males often dominate the spotlight in thoroughbred racing, 3 exceptional females were drawing an inordinate amount of attention on the backstretch. The $1 million Breeders' Cup Distaff for fillies and mares was believed to be a match race. Bayacoa, the rangy, defending distaff champion, had been brought to New York from California by her trainer, Ron McAnally. Hall of Famer McAnally patiently prepared Bayacoa for her second career start at Belmont. The 6-year-old Argentine-bred mare, winner of a remarkable 20 races, was the reigning queen of the older females. Trainer Billy Badgett was a close observer of Bayacoa's early morning workouts. A year before at Gulfstream Park, Badgett had sent his first horse into a Breeders' Cup race and excitedly finger-snapped Go for Wand home in the $1 million juvenile fillies. Badgett now hoped that Go for Wand could dethrone Queen Bayacoa as the world's top female. The third leading lady at this Breeders' Cup Championship was trained by another Hall of Famer, Leroy Jolly. Her name is Meadow Star. She had rolled through 6 starts undefeated. The Breeders' Cup juvenile fillies had been her major goal for months. The 1990 Breeders' Cup had dawned to a perfect autumn day. Belmont's paddock and spacious grounds provided patrons with a pastoral setting for this day of championship competition. Belmont is not only rich in tradition, but beauty as well. A 200-year-old white pine shelters its paddock. Now, another memorable chapter in racing was about to begin. Dancing Spree, the defending Breeders' Cup Sprint champion, led the horses to the saddling enclosure for the first race of the day. His owner, 81-year-old Ogden Phipps, is the patriarch of a family stable which has raced at Belmont since its opening in 1905. Yes. However, the sprint favorite came from the stable of English trainer Major Dick Hearn. His starter, the blazing 3-year-old De Jure, was Europe's fastest horse. Hearn spent considerable time schooling De Jure in the starting gate to familiarize his colt with the presence of assistant starters, which are not used in Europe. Working with Hearn was his friend, American trainer Tom Skiffington.
A guy will walk in with him and then he'll go either underneath or he'll go over on top depending on what the action is in the gate. And
anyway, he couldn't have done it better, could he?
Absolutely. I thought it was great. I think Willie was really happy with it.
Good.
The fans made De Jure the betting favorite at 2-1. However, many local experts felt that De Jure's chances would be compromised because he had never run on dirt or around a turn. Some felt that Mr. Nickerson, a solid Belmont Park sprinter, would challenge De Jure. Mr. Nickerson's trainer, Mark Reed, discussed the race with jockey Chris Antley.
Yeah.
You know, because you know...
He don't break good enough to sit on.
Right. You know he's going to be there. And the filly's going to be going. So if they go hustling by you and clear you and you can lay comfortable on the outside a couple lengths off, great.
As owner Phipps made his way to the box seats, his colt Dancing Spree moved toward the track. Angel Cordero, the winning jockey of the sprint in both 1988 and 1989, was in the irons. The crowd of over 50,000 watched intently as the world's best sprinters paraded to the post. There was only one filly in the field of 14, safely kept, who had lost to Dancing Spree by a neck the year before. Somehow, this year, her odds were 12-1.
It is now post time for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And they're off. And Safely Kept goes right to the lead. The filly champion quickly opens up here by 2 lengths. And on the far outside, De Jure is right there, and Glitterman is also mixing it up. De Jure mixing it up now with his American rivals. Carson City is up close to the pace. He's running along in 4th position. Potentiality is 5th. Dargai is now racing in 6th position. Mr. Nickerson has fallen. We have a spill on the turn. Shaker Knit went down, and Mr. Nickerson also down on the track. Spill on the far turn, and now the field moving toward the top of the stretch. It's De Jure fighting it out with last year's champion, Safely Kept. The English champion now has taken a short lead as they come to the top of the stretch. Safely Kept is right there in behind them. Glitterman is now running along in 3rd. Black Tie Affair sweeps to the outside. Then Prospectors Gamble and Carson City. They hooked up at the start. They're still going at it. Safely Kept on the inside. Brave down to the final furlong. On the outside, De Jure, and neither giving way. They come down to the final 16th. And it is De Jure who forges to the front. Safely Kept coming back at him. And De Jure took a bad step. 10 feet from the wire. And Safely Kept comes on to snatch the victory.
Safely Kept went under the wire first after De Jure had twice bobbled in the fierce stretch run. European champion rider Willie Carson was nearly unseated. The replay shows that the powerful filly had matched De Jure stride for stride. In the run down the narrow ribbon of sunlight between the rail and the shaded part of the track, Desjeux appeared to have stuck his head in front, but suddenly he jumped a shadow cast from the roof of the stands as Safely Kept retook the lead. Desjeux bobbled yet a second time at the finish, and Safely Kept won by a neck. It was a strange way for jockey Craig Perrette to earn his third Breeders' Cup championship, but the determination of the 4-year-old Safely Kept made it a satisfying win. Safely Kept not only avenged her defeat from the year before, she became the second filly in 7 runnings to win the sprint. While jubilation filled the winner's circle, the presence of emergency equipment on the backstretch provided a sharp contrast. Mr. Nickerson was in distress shortly after the race began. Shaker Nit, running behind, fell over Mr. Nickerson, propelling jockey Jose Santos through the air like a rag doll. Miraculously, Santos escaped injury. Only minutes later, he prepared for the next race in his ride aboard America's best 2-year-old filly, Meadow Star. Jose Santos was ready. As the juvenile fillies race unfolded, Santos rode Meadow Star with unflinching confidence. Staying clear of trouble on the outside, Santos and Meadow Star began picking up their rivals one by one. Leroy Jolly watched as Meadow Star showed the world why she had been correctly made the heaviest favorite in Breeders' Cup history, at odds of 1 to 5. Meadow Star had professionally circled the field of 13. By the time she rounded the turn for home in the 1 1/16 race, she was running for her place in history.
And the field turns for home with Meadow Star taking command. It is still Meadow Star leading the way by 4, pouring it on now by 5, and leaving the others behind in the wake of her brilliance. A perfect season.
Meadow Star had completed her remarkable first season undefeated at 7 for 7, and Leroy Jolly had every reason to celebrate. Meadow Star was walked down victory lane by her owner, Carl Icahn. Beginning with this Breeders' Cup win, all of Meadow Star's earnings would be donated to the Children's Rescue Fund. Now and forever, this unique filly will be the children's champion. Many were uplifted by Meadow Star's performance. Few, however, were as thankful as her resilient rider, Jose Santos.
I could have been in the hospital, and thank God and give me the chance to come back to the jockeys room and rode that great filly.
Among the 8 fillies and mares that came to compete in the Breeders' Cup Distaff was the new darling of New York racing, Go for Wand. Her brilliant career had started at Belmont only 13 months before. The fans' affection for her approached reverence, but the most ardent admirer of the 3-year-old filly was her owner and breeder, Mrs. Jane DuPont Lunger.
She is honest, and she's a good athlete, and she loves to run, and she loves Belmont Park.
Go for Wand had run only 4 times as a 2-year-old, but was a champion. People were starting to measure her against another outstanding filly, the legendary Ruffian. Ruffian was the best 3-year-old filly of modern time, maybe of all time. Sadly, in 1975, Ruffian broke down in a match race with Foolish Pleasure here at Belmont. She was later humanely destroyed and buried near the finish line she had often crossed in triumph. Along Ruffian Road on Belmont's backstretch is the stable of Go for Wand's trainer, Billy Badgett. Badgett spoke about his filly's chances on the day before the race.
She'll go out there and run a race. I don't know what's going to happen, but she'll give them a run for their money.
Standing tall in the path of the 3-year-old Go For Wand was the accomplished 6-year-old Bayakoa. 1 year earlier at the 1989 Breeders' Cup in Florida, Bayakoa demonstrated her championship form with a stunning victory in the distaff. Now, in the fall of 1990, Bayakoa was being readied to try and become the first 2-time distaff winner. Trainer Ron McAnally was pleased with her preparations.
Her ability has been incredible for us. She runs on all kinds of tracks. She ships well. She eats well. Everything that it takes to make a champion, she has been.
The stage was set. The sport's 2 dominant female champions were ready to meet for the first time. Go For Wand had won 5 straight stakes races and 5 of her 6 lifetime starts at Belmont. She was made the 3-5 betting favorite by her adoring fans. Randy Romero, who had ridden Go For Wand in all of her races, was aboard. Badgett watched from ground level. Bayakoa with Lafitte Pinkai was second choice at even money. McAnally waited patiently in the stands. Without question, the winner would be the best filly in the world. As expected, the distaff quickly evolved into a match race. Romero sent Go For Wand to the front just seconds after the start of the 1 1/8 race. Pinkai moved Bayakoa toward Go For Wand's flank. The battle was joined.
The quarter went in 23 2/5 seconds. They've run a half in 46 2. A chess game down the backstretch.
Down the backstretch and into the sweeping Belmont turn, the 2 combatants raced stride for stride. Gradually, they pulled away from the rest of the field. The distaff had been billed as the most evenly matched race of the day. Midway around the turn, it had become a compelling test of wills.
They hooked up at the start. They're in a cutthroat duel. Go For Wand holding on to a short lead. Bayakoa is right at her throat, and they have dueled through 3/4 of a mile in 1:10 2. Bayakoa on the outside, a short lead. Go For Wand is unwavering toward the rail. Those 2 stride for stride. Go For Wand on the inside. Bayakoa battling back, a dramatic distaff. Go For Wand grimly holding on. Tragedy as Go For Wand has fallen at the 16th.
Randy Romero lay motionless. Go For Wand, her ankle broken, had limped across the track. The fans were stricken by grief. As he was being carried from the track, Romero signaled to the silent crowd that he was not seriously injured. His heart, however, was broken.
And when I fell down, I kind of put my eye on the outside to see where she was at. And I could see her leg dangling. And that's when I broke down.
No one loved the horse more than Rosemary Badgett, the wife of the trainer and the filly's exercise rider. Her anguish could not be consoled. Billy Badgett looked on in hopeless disbelief. His champion filly's leg was shattered beyond repair. Go For Wand was humanely destroyed. The Badgetts, who had been married just 3 weeks earlier, solemnly left the track to be alone with their thoughts. Mayakoa and Pink Eye returned for a joyless ceremony.
So sad, and I think everyone, including my wife and I, went to the winner's circle in tears. And it takes a little while to get over something like that. Such a great mare, and what a loss.
Mayakoa had captured her second straight distaff, but it was a sad way to win.
It was a bittersweet victory, the way I look back on it and see it. Needless to say, everybody was saddened, and it took a lot of the luster away from our filly, of course, which was not very understandable. I still feel she would have won it. Of course, the people that have go for one feel that they could have won it, and the good Lord is the only one that really knows who would have won it.
The tragic fall of Go For Wand cast somber emotional shadows over Belmont. But racing is a sport which tests emotions day after day, race after race. It is also a sport which can somehow spin those emotions very quickly. Even as the canopy of sadness hung over the track, an emotional boost occurred. Lester Piggott, the champion European rider, was returning to racing a week shy of his 55th birthday and after 5 years of retirement. Only 12 days prior to this Breeders' Cup, he had decided to make a comeback. Fittingly, Piggott, whose last Breeders' Cup appearance was in 1985, led the competitors to the post for the mile on the grass. His mount was Irish-raced Royal Academy, the 5-2 favorite. The $1 Million Breeders' Cup Mile lured the best riders and horses from around the world. European horses had won the mile in 5 of its 6 runnings.
And they're off in the Breeders' Cup Mile.
Royal Academy broke last in the field of 13. As the horses raced into the backstretch, Piggott moved his mount away from the rail and into the clear on the outside.
With good early speed is angled over quickly to the inside. Go Dutch on the outside, 4th. Steinlen is up close to the early pace. He's now 5th. Mark of Distinction's taken under a hard hold. He was steadied in behind Lady Winner. On the outside, beginning to move up now. That's It's All Greek to Me. He's about 6 lengths off the lead. Mark of Distinction is now pinned down on the inside. Colway Rally with Clear Running moving up. And Long Shot Great Normandy's about 9 lengths off the lead. Royal Academy with Clear Running on the far outside. And down inside, Who's to Pay? 9 lengths from the pacemakers. Priolo is second to last. Gelaggio.
At the top of the stretch, Expensive Decision, who held the American record for a mile on the turf, was being stalked by 37-1 long shot, It's All Greek to Me. Piggott and Royal Academy had stayed on their outside route and seemed ready for a strong drive to the wire.
As they come down to the final furlong, It's All Greek to Me has a short lead. Expensive Decision battling back. Mark of Distinction. Royal Academy is thundering down the center of the turf course, and Steinlen is 5th. They're coming down to the finish. Lester Piggott flailing away at Royal Academy. It's All Greek to Me toward the inside. Here's the wire. Head bobbing finish. Royal Academy does it, and the living legend out of retirement.
Lester Piggott had ridden his first winner at the age of 12, spent 6 decades as a race rider, won more than 5,000 races. Now, on a fall afternoon at Belmont, he had won a Breeders' Cup championship in the grandest comeback by a jockey ever.
Well, you know, it's fantastic to be able to win a Breeders' Cup race, you know. Whether it's 20, 30, 40 or 50.
Pigot's performance uplifted the crowd. The maestro, as he is called, had made a dream come true. When he decided to try and come back from retirement, people scoffed. But he had made it all the way back, and Englishmen everywhere cheered. Pigot and Royal Academy came to the 1990 Breeders' Cup in a wave of European horses, which was not only the largest in number, but the deepest in talent as well. The international invaders were encouraged by Belmont's facilities, according to New York trainer P.G. Johnson.
If I was training any place in the world and there was a Breeders' Cup in the United States, I would feel more comfortable at Belmont Park for so many reasons. The turf courses have wide sweeping turns. It leaves you without excuse other than normal poor racing luck. It's a little soft in the fall of the year, which helps the European horses. The weather is the same. They've built a tremendous quarantine station here. It's right on the grounds. The horses don't have to leave a racetrack. It's a fortunate thing that we have the Breeders' Cup here. It's a better test.
The brigade of foreign horses for the $2 million Breeders' Cup turf was led by Francis Saumarez, winner of the Arc de Triomphe. England's Cacoethes was also a strong contender. Canada was represented by its 1989 Triple Crown winner, With Approval. Angel Cordero was aboard America's best hope, El Senor. 26-year-old trainer Nicolas Clement sent Saumarez to the post as the 5-2 second choice. A powerful two-horse French-based entry was favored at 9-5. In the Wings, wearing number 1, was being ridden for the first time by America's leading money-winning rider, Gary Stevens. The 1A French Glory, piloted by Pat Edery, represented the other half of that team. Both horses came from the stable of top French trainer André Fabre.
And they're off. A flawless start there. And Cacoethes is away quickly on the outside. Pleasant Tap is there.
The world's best long-distance grass horses passed the stands for the first time in this mile-and-a-half test. Cacoethes, who had stolen the Belmont Turf Classic 3 weeks earlier with a front-running effort, was back on familiar ground. He set the pace as the field of 11 headed into the first of 2 turns.
In the Wings is second to last, and the late running El Senor is content to trail the field. He's about 8 lengths off the lead of Cacoethes. A moderate pace here. Cacoethes uncontested on the lead. Sky Classic right there. Saumarez moving along nicely under a firm hold just in behind the pacemakers. El Senor down the backstretch now, and the tempo quickening. They're coming to Cacoethes, and Colchis Island with a decisive move has taken the lead midway down the backstretch. They've run 3/4 of a mile in 1:15.3. Colchis out on the short lead. Cacoethes counters and comes right back. Sky Classic is right there with Approval in perfect striking position, and there goes With Approval now with a 4-wide sweep into the turn. Saumarez is right there in behind horses. French Glory is in tight toward the rail as Saumarez is dropping out of it now. Alwahoosh on the outside. In the Wings is kicking in midway around the fire turn now, and Sky Classic has been checked. El Senor is coming with a powerful sweep on the outside. They're coming to the top of the stretch. With Approval wresting the lead from Cacoethes. In the Wings is right there. Alwahoosh is fourth. El Senor swings wide for the stretch drive. Saumarez is 6 lengths out of it, and French Glory, they're coming to the final furlong, and With Approval, an all-out drive, and the oncoming In the Wings surges. El Senor is closing late, 50 yards from the wire. In the Wings forges to the lead. With Approval cannot stay with. in the wings, and Gary Stevens.
Star jockey Gary Stevens had not won a Breeders' Cup race in 22 attempts. This was a unique way to earn his first championship.
You know, it was a little bit ironic. I had never won a Breeders' Cup race, and picking the horse up 5 days before, a horse that I'd never ridden before for European connections was, you know, a little bit odd, but it was just as satisfying just the same.
The unlikely combination of an American rider and a French colt earned European racing a sweep of the Breeders' Cup grass events. Many champions first displayed their potential in races for 2-year-olds at Belmont Park. When a 2-year-old performs well over this track, seasoned trainers like New York's Scotty Schulhofer realize that future stardom is always possible.
You know that a champion 2-year-old, you got a chance maybe to be a champion 3-year-old. And that's where it starts, with the 2-year-olds.
Seattle Slew was one of the finest 2-year-olds ever to race at Belmont. He evolved into greatness as a 3-year-old, and in 1977 became the first undefeated Triple Crown winner. Belmont-based Fly So Free was the highly regarded 7-5 favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
I've always been high on Fly So Free ever since the first day I ever seen him do anything. And he's a beautiful moving colt. He's big, strong, mentally was way matured over any 2-year-old I've ever been around.
The chief rival of Fly So Free was Best Pal, a California standout. He had 5 career wins and was the 9-5 second choice. The field of 11 2-year-olds rounded the turn for home in this 1.16 contest. Fly So Free, who had lingered behind the early runners, assumed the lead with a quick move in the middle of the racetrack. Best Pal loomed menacingly off his flank, while 33-1 long shot Take Me Out continued his run down on the rail.
Best Pal is poised for the stretch drive on the outside. Happy Jazz Band and Time Gentleman Lost Mountain on the far outside. They're coming down to the final furlong, and it is Fly So Free. Take Me Out runs at him from the inside. Happy Jazz Band angles out. Best Pal is fourth. They're coming down to the final 16th, and it is Fly So Free who has the lead, in a big day for Jose Santos as he scores here with Fly So Free widening his lead with every stride.
Fly So Free, now the 2-year-old champion, would be the early favorite for the Triple Crown races next spring. Jose Santos had guided Fly So Free to a solid win for his second victory of the day. Santos became the first jockey to capture both of the Breeders' Cup races for 2-year-olds. Like so many young champions before, Fly So Free's first steps towards stardom were taken at Belmont Park. Racing in New York has long been a tradition of excellent horses and influential people. Among the first families of New York racing were Mr. and Mrs. Henry Carnegie Phipps, and their son, Ogden Phipps, sustained the family legacy for the next 50 years. But perhaps the sport's most recognized owner is Penny Chenery, who campaigned Secretariat. In 1973, he captured his Triple Crown with a historic 31-length victory in the Belmont Stakes.
Every horse has a good race in him, and the trick is to have him on the track the day he feels good. And I think that's what happened. The day he felt wonderful was the day of the Belmont, and he put in a performance that I don't think will ever be equaled.
A statue in the Belmont paddock is New York racing's lasting tribute to Secretariat. In the shadow of that statue, 14 of the top horses in training gathered for the $3 million Breeders' Cup Classic. The hometown hopeful was the Travers Stakes winner, 3-year-old Rhythm from the Phipps stable. Ogden Phipps looked on while his son Denny, the owner of Rhythm, and family trainer Shug McGahee discussed the pending race. The biggest race of the day was about to commence. Go and Go, the 1990 Belmont Stakes winner, appeared proud and ready. Irish jockey Mick Kinane had been Go and Go's rider in the Belmont. Unbridled, the reigning Kentucky Derby champion, made his presence felt as well. His jockey, Pat Day, had won the very first running of this race in a memorable finish aboard Wild Again. Izvestia, Canada's 1990 Triple Crown winner, was ready. Incredibly so, too, was Izvestia's jockey, Randy Romero, who came back to ride after his horrifying spill in the distaff. California's Flying Continental was held at odds of 9-2. Dispersal, the quick colt who had captured Belmont's Woodward Stakes, was 8-1. 36 Red, second in the Belmont Stakes, was 29-1. Another outsider was DeRoche at 19-1. He lost the Jockey Club Gold Cup by a neck to Flying Continental. England's Ibn Bay was 38-1. As expected, the hometown fans sent Rhythm to the post as the favorite at 5-2. The Classic was considered to be the most competitive major race of the year. A 1.25-mile test would start on Belmont's clubhouse turn. Unbridled on the far outside was last to load. His number 14 post position was expected to be a disadvantage in a field this large.
14 of the best horses in training in the gate for the 7th Breeders' Cup Classic. And they're off. Izvestia breaks alertly, and 36 Red is sent immediately toward the lead. Home at Last is up close fast. Bo Genius is with a sharp early move. Ibn Bay is up there mixing it up early. On the far outside, Dispersal is caught 4 wide round the first turn. Do his running from well off the pace. He's already 11 lengths out of it. Then it's Unbridled, and DeRoche has one horse beaten, and that is Long Shot Lively One as they continue down the back stretch here at Belmont Park. Oh, Genius battles his way out to a short lead. Dispersal's right there with him, and toward the inside, 36th Red, a 3-ply battle for the lead. Ibn Bay is up close. Home at Last is right there on the outside. The Canadian Grey Izvestia toward the inside. Opening burst is moving through in between horses. He's just 6 lengths off the lead. Then Go and Me Selecto. Rhythm, the favorite, is still a dozen lengths out of it. And the pace is a demanding one. They've run a half mile in 45 4/5 seconds. And 36 Red has fought his way.
On the turn for home, the race was anyone's. 36 Red had kept his early lead. Surprisingly, European long shot Ibn Bay was mounting the challenge. The favorite, Rhythm, was on the far outside and had not yet found his best stride. Hidden down along the rail were Pat Day and Unbridled. They remained coiled behind the front runners.
36 Red has fought his way to the lead. He's got a short lead. Izvestia is coming hard. Unbridled, the Derby winner, is coming through an opening, and DeRoche is coming with a menacing rush. They're in the final furlong. 36 Red is all out. Ibn Bay is right there. Unbridled, he's in tight in between horses. Here comes the Derby winner. It is Unbridled who fights his way to the front and wins the 7th Breeders' Cup Classic.
For Unbridled's trainer, Karl Nafzger, it was his crowning victory. Jockey Pat Day had captured his 2nd Breeders' Cup Classic. In deep stretch, he made a daring move by driving Unbridled between the 2 leaders. It was a brilliant ride. Unbridled had now won the two most important races in America, the Kentucky Derby and the Breeders' Cup Classic. This victory earned him the season's 3-year-old championship. Fittingly, Karl Nafzger was named Trainer of the Year. The 7th Breeders' Cup Day was one marked by triumph and tragedy. The ride of Pat Day aboard Classic Champion Unbridled was a thrilling finale. Lester Piggott's astounding comeback served notice worldwide. He was the maestro once more. And America's Gary Stevens, with Francis in the wings, brought European racing center stage. De Jure was named European Horse of the Year, despite his loss in the sprint to Safely Kept. The determination of Jose Santos was inspirational, coming back from a spill to ride the 2-year-old champions, Fly So Free and Meadow Star, to smashing victories. Bayakoa was a Breeders' Cup champion for the 2nd time, but her moment in the winner's circle was overshadowed by our thoughts of Go for Wand. Her giant heart, tragically greater than her fragile stride. Always, she ran with the courage and spirit of a champion.